We've got another great episode of Jumbled for you, but first let's take care of a little business. We are brought to you each and every week by Audible. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled. Get that free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. They've got over 180,000 titles to choose from. So pick something. You know what? Scroll and point, and then listen to that. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Jumbled, your favorite podcast about nothing. I am Zach.
And I'm Johnny.
And I'm Lacey.
She's back. Welcome back, Lacey.
Oh shit, Lacey's back, and I think she is back and fired up.
I don't have as many cool stories though because I haven't been doing anything, but I have a few saved. We'll see where the conversation goes.
I'm all down for some stories, but we don't have to, make this story time with Lacey. What I'm really excited about, and this is a little bit of a political topic, but what has made me say, you know what, I really do love Lacey, is how fired up you've been recently about some of the changes in firearm laws in Canada that have taken place, which I think if the average person knew Lacey, probably wouldn't expect you to have this opinion on it.
First of all, I've always wanted like a gold Glock, so
A gold Glock.
that's
okay.
what I want.
All right.
But like realistically, in general, it was completely unnecessary. So I think it's kind of dumb, and it's just to get a reaction, really. And I think for most topics. Yes, go.
Let's back up a little bit because we have some listeners in America who may or may not be aware of what's happening in Canada.
Well, you guys will be real soon because it's already hitting CNN about how the Democrats want to do what we're doing in Canada and pissing everyone off. But I understand why you guys wouldn't be aware. So as of last Friday, our Sith Lord Justin Trudeau came forward, and who is currently a minority government, so this is an important piece to it, and I got into a debate with my mother-in-law about this. And so with a minority government, we have a different term for it, but it essentially did a what's the US version? Executive
order or something like that.
Order, yeah. So we have what's called an order in council, which circumvents the democratic process, banned 1,500 types of military-style assault weapons in Canada.
Oof.
Which sounds impressive, right? Like, I think you could ask anyone in general, do you think a person should have a military-grade weapon? And I say grade very intentionally. Because the people who understand military grade will laugh because a lot of military stuff goes to the lowest bidder. And a lot of what we have in civilian is better in many ways, but not in the ways that anti-gun people are concerned about. For example, effectiveness, power, rate of fire, caliber. So in this list of the 1,500, Trudeau went as far as also including a few dozen variations of rocket launchers.
Fuck, there goes my dreams.
Which fun fact,
I have 25
already
acres.
illegal. That's true. I mean, you could kill and cook a deer with one shot. Like, so basically my frustration, and we can get into the guns and we can get into the statistics and the general strategy, and I will answer those questions and I can provide some stats. I am prepared to go deep into this conversation if you guys like. But on the surface, my frustration with this is a couple of things. One, the misinformation, and I know that is a common buzz word and fake news, but the reality is this is not even, I wouldn't even go as far as saying fake news, but like intentionally lying or framing your point. So we recently, which you may have seen, had a mass shooting in Canada. Do you know how many people died?
No.
Okay. So 22 people died. And it has been framed in the media and by our politicians that it is the largest mass shooting in Canadian history. The reality is 13 of those people who died in house fires that gunman also set, and were not
so not even gun related deaths.
Not even gunshot wound related deaths. The order that Trudeau has passed on the tail feathers of this severe tragedy, and based on and using it directly as a reason why the guns that the shooter used would not have been impacted by this change.
That's the thing that gets me going. It makes no sense. Like, he's saying it's to prevent what happened, but what he just put in doesn't do shit. And he got all this stuff illegally anyway.
Well, that's how most I mean, most people who are going to commit a felony of some sort are going to not be legally able to either own a weapon, or the weapon that they're using is not theirs, right? Why would...
Yeah.
So this shooter, there's a couple aspects. He was prohibited from owning a firearm or getting a firearm license because of previous charges that have flagged him as not a candidate for a firearms license in Canada. So we have a licensing system where you have to go and you take a weekend course and you have to write a test. You have to get references, give a background check. It takes months.
And the system is working.
The system works. It 100% works.
Yeah, like we don't have an issue.
Well, we have an issue, but it's not related. It's not the same issue as what happens in the States. So over the last 10 years, statistically speaking, you are slightly more likely to die from a gunshot from a legal firearms owner as you are to die from being struck by lightning. And that's a Stats Canada stat. So that's not like some, rebel media, dumb right-wing news, like fake stat. That is looking at Stats Canada stats and saying, okay, what of the, looking at firearms related deaths. So we have a very different problem where you have in the US, depending on state to state jurisdiction on firearm laws and licensing and acquisition and whatnot. And in general, as an American, you can legally buy a gun in some way, shape, or form, any state that you're in. There's different rules, but you can get one, meaning you could be crazy and buy a gun, and that's a concern. And I don't want that in my country. I like knowing that in general, if I go to a shooting range and there's someone next to me that I don't know, I know a few things. One, they passed this test. Two, they passed a background check at some point and got vetted.
Right.
And three, I know that as early as of that very same morning, he has no pending charges against him.
I actually have a fun story related to that. I shouldn't say fun. This is going to be dark. My friend's sister, her boyfriend broke up with her, and she posted on Facebook that she was going to kill herself. She took a bunch of pills, got drunk. Someone did a welfare check on her, so police came to check, took her to the hospital, got her stomach pumped, whatever, released her after, I think she was in psych for 48 hours, and then they released her. And when she got home, she had a knock on the door, and the police were there to take all of her firearms away, and they canceled her license. And I'm like, it works.
Yeah.
So the leading cause, similar to America, of death caused by firearms is suicide, which is a concern. And yeah, there is a point of, well, it's really easy to shoot yourself, so we should get rid of that as an option, and then maybe people will think twice. Will that happen? Potentially, yes.
I think if you're at the point where you're ready to call it quits, you're gonna call it quits somehow, one way or another. Whether that's making it quick and painless or other routes.
Well, and some might not be as definite because they don't work, or someone, for example, pills. Someone finds you before it takes its full effect.
Right.
But if that's their state of mind, that's their state of mind.
Right. And so here's the rebuttal to this that people ignore. So again, Stats Canada. So the leading methods of suicide are, number 1, hanging, 44%. So we should ban ropes and extension cords.
I have a story about that too.
Number 2 is poisoning at 25%. And number 3 is gunshot wound at 16%.
I like the idea of poisoning.
I mean, it can be a reasonably peaceful way to go.
Well, and the way my brain always processes poisoning, I know that it's just somebody drinking bleach or something, right? But it seems like there's somebody that's poisoned some sort of something. I know that's suicide. Or maybe they've baked their own foods that have poison inside of it. Like, that's where poison in my brain doesn't... Pills. Sure.
It's overdosing on prescription pills. I heard you that you have a story, Lacey. I don't want to take away from that, so please.
Well, in previous podcasts, I've refrained from talking about the super fucked up stories I hear from paramedics and police officers, but they're amazing.
I feel like we're dark enough right now, so just, yeah.
That's the thing, right? We're already halfway there. So I can think of 2 off the top of my head that kind of refer to this. One is the hanging, where a guy killed himself in the woods, and someone called in saying, like, there's something in the woods and we don't want to go see what it is. Something's weird out there. So what happened is that he had hung himself about a week before, and no one had found the body. And with how high he was, because he went on a ladder and then kicked the ladder away.
Oof.
It was summer. Everything was hot and warm. And his head separated from his body, but the skin did not. So his neck elongated about 6 feet. So his body was on the ground, but his head was still above. So when the paramedics got there, they're like, is there a fucking giraffe? Like, what is happening? And then as they got closer, they realized what it was.
That is fucking terrifying.
Isn't that crazy?
I would have nightmares.
That the human body can do that? It's kind of incredible, actually, in my opinion, that, like, after a week of decomposition, the skin is still that much intact. Like, I think that's fantastic. Science is cool.
Explain my fucking wrinkles.
It's just a hard life.
Fuck.
I have an idea. Just put needles in the top of your forehead.
There you go.
And then put it on wear like a back brace. So you have a hook on the top, and then it'll just stretch everything up.
Perfect.
Nice and tight.
Perfect.
And the other one I had regarding is depression. I actually have the medical paper on it. If you guys are interested in reading it, I'll send it to you. A woman got fired from her job, and she was very depressed, and she was laying in her bed every day. And she was still getting up to eat, still getting up to go to the bathroom, but that was it. And then she slowly stopped getting out of bed. So at first, her husband was just like feeding her in bed, but she was still going to the bathroom. But then she stopped getting up to go to the bathroom. So her husband had to clean the bed every day, and he got frustrated. So he grabbed a tarp, put it in the spare bedroom, picked her up and put her on said tarp, and was like, there, if you're going to shit yourself, do it here. And at first he was still cleaning it, and then he wasn't. 4 months go by, and his sister can't get a hold of her, and she's concerned. And when she talks to him, he's like, yeah, she's just going through some stuff right now. It's not a big deal. But he won't let her come visit, nothing. So she calls the police thinking that he murdered her. And the paramedics were first there. And they said as they were walking up, the smell was god-awful. And so they assumed there was a dead body in the house. They get into the house. And the husband, by the way, answers the door. The house is pristine. It's clean. He's in a suit. He just got home from work. Like, Everything seems normal, but it smells like death. So they ask to see his wife. And he goes, oh, yeah, let me take you to her. And he takes him to the room. She's lying face down. She has the tarp underneath her and a blanket on top of her, and about 2 feet worth of a mound on top of her. And they don't know what's under this mound. So at first my client was like, maybe it's a weird tumor, like we don't know. It's feces. So it got to the point that he stopped cleaning it. And so she was covered in feces and maggots.
Oh.
And the only part of her body visible was about mid-calf down, and one arm that she had like under her face, supporting her face, and her head was visible. Everything else was necrotic, either like flesh, feces, maggots, whatever.
That's fucked up on so many different reasons.
So many reasons. So they talk to her, and she's lucid enough to respond. So they're like, what's your name? She says her name. Do you know where you are? She's like, I'm at home. And they're like, do you know why you're here? I don't want to get up. And they're like, well, we need you to come with us. I'm not getting up. And they actually had to cut the carpet because she would move slightly throughout the day, I guess. And the tarp shifted from underneath her, so she was actually fused to the carpet. So they had to wrap her up like a shit burrito, essentially, and get her into the ambulance. And she had become catatonic. So that's...
Sure.
Yeah, so it was very deep depression. Husband got arrested. She had to get one arm amputated and multiple skin grafts. She was in the hospital for about 6 months. They had to do electrotherapy to make her not just lucid, but cognitive, I guess. And when they told her what happened, she wanted to see her husband. And they're like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Like, he's charged, he's going to jail, like, this is, like, abuse, neglect, whatever. And she's like, well, clearly he tried to take care of me. Like, she couldn't comprehend because she didn't see how bad it was. You'd think waking up without an arm would kind of tell you, but... So...
Love is blind, baby.
It's just,
God.
it's wild. But she had the type of depression, if she had access to a gun, she wouldn't have. She just would have done exactly what she did. Because it was a chemical imbalance, for sure.
Sure, yeah.
But the crazy thing is that they've never had a reported catatonic case like that ever. So it made it into the medical journal as far as Ireland because they've never seen it get to this point before.
Sure.
So I have like
Yeah,
a 4-page
no
thing. He sent it, my client sent it to me on my birthday, like a month after I tattooed him. Great, thanks.
Wow. So how long is he having to serve? Do you know?
Is what, sorry?
How long is
Oh,
he?
like how long's the husband?
Yeah.
I have no idea because it didn't say in the article, and it only happened, I guess, 3 years ago now. And I'm not gonna lie, Canadian justice system takes a real long time.
Well, it's about to get a lot worse, and we're going to get to that.
Ooh.
Okay.
Serious.
So we've established that we don't have a legal gun owner issue.
Mm-hmm.
What we do have is a gang issue and an issue with gangs stealing guns. Sometimes, yes, from legal gun owners.
Oh, yes, we talked about this.
That is part of the, well, if no one had guns, it would be so much harder for them to get. The RCMP, so like our Canadian police force, loses hundreds of guns a year. And there's been recent ones of police officers who, are at the end of their shift and put their shit in like a glove box, like their gun and their badge or their body armor or their whatever, and go to the gym, and then someone breaks into their car and steals all their shit. There was one where he had his uniform and his body armor, his patrol carbine in his trunk, got broken into and stolen.
Well, and Zach, do you know about the shooting that happened here? The details?
Right, I was supposed to get to that.
No, I do not. I only briefly heard that there was a shooting. I didn't look into it.
After you, Johnny.
So he had gotten his hands on, I don't know if it was a legitimate RCMP police officer's uniform. It was?
Yeah.
It wasn't, when I was reading it, wasn't sure if it was like a replica or if it was a legit one. And he made a police car. So he was...
Have you ever seen the movie Let's Be Cops?
No.
Okay, well, then never mind, but this guy fucking did that.
He did kill a police officer.
Wow.
So there's a lot of speculation.
And stole her gun after.
And stole her gun. So the frustrating parts around this story, there's a few. One, it's a conversation of framing of the deaths.
Sure.
And in this world of clickbait, 22 mass shooting sounds a lot scarier and is likely to get a lot more attention than
14 or what?
9 people and 13 fire and whatever. There has to be a conversation around the impact of posing as a police officer is in committing mass murder like that.
Sure.
And he was pulling people over who were seeing a police officer, pulling over their car, stopping, putting their keys on their dash, getting their wallet out, their driver's license, super nervous, and this guy walking up and killing them.
And that's also how he got subsequent vehicles as well. When he would ram his and it wasn't working anymore, then he would just pull someone over and then steal their car. Because they'd stop. But this also, okay, this is a deeper thing as well, which can go with the Canadian justice system as well, but he had a violent past with his girlfriend, with whatever other run-ins he had with the law, like he had assault charges and stuff, but nothing happens. You get a charge and maybe you can't go to this place anymore.
Right.
But you pretty much get a slap on the wrist, but clearly this guy's a fucking psychopath, and no one does anything.
Of issues. Yeah. And the system is overclogged and slow and...
Yes. And people with those issues just get worse. They don't get better. They're like, oh, I got away with that. I'll do something more next time.
Sure.
And how this whole thing started was he was at a house party, which, excuse me, we're supposed to be quarantining.
Right. Tell that to my neighbors.
So he was at a house party, got into an argument with his girlfriend or wife. I think it's a girlfriend. And they left the party. And then when they got home, he beat her and tied her to a chair in the basement. And she was able to somehow get free. And she went and hid in the woods. And he went back to the house party thinking she went there, I guess. I don't quite know why he went back there. And that's what started the killing spree. So he got a bunch of guns because he was going to go murder his girlfriend. But then all these people came in his line of range and he killed all of them instead. And the only reason the cops even found him is because the girl came out of the woods to go to the police, like, help me, my boyfriend's trying to kill me. And then she said, BT dubs, he's driving a cop car and probably has an RCMP outfit on. So if it wasn't for her, there probably would have been more damage, I think.
Mm-hmm. So the RCMP in that city released a notice to the public to basically like, by the way, this crazy thing's happening after they apprehended him.
Mm-hmm. They didn't
His
tell
spree
people.
Lasted for a long time.
I think it was 15 hours?
Yeah, I think about that, yeah. So this is what the sweeping gun laws come in off the back of a global pandemic,
right?
A countrywide lockdown, a healthcare issue,
mm-hmm.
everything that's going on, and then to snake this in by essentially saying, I don't care about the democratic process and I'm going to make this change while the House of Commons is locked down and can't actually proceed or have a conversation. So it's the process part that really bugs me, that someone can completely circumvent everything. Do I think you should be able, as the leader of a country, to do like an executive order or, an order in council? Sure. If you have a majority government, if you can safely say, well, 52% of the people are likely going to agree with me, I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you are a significant minority government, I think no. But that's another point. So Forgot where I was with the guns now. We went down some weird...
Deep.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about suicides. So the majority of the problem is smuggling from the U.S.
Yeah.
And that's the
Fucking
frustration.
Americans.
That's the hard part, too, is we get all the time, well, New Zealand did it. Australia did it. England did it. And it's like, well, one, New Zealand, Australia, they don't have the issue of having the biggest gun market in the world connected to them by an unprotected border.
Mm-hmm.
So smuggling is a huge issue. The other part I have about this decision is Trudeau appointed three councils to advise him. One was the City Police Chiefs Commission, and the other was the RCMP. And then he had his public safety minister, who is a complete wingnut. Both police outfits independently had said this will not have an impact on our crime issues. And this is coming, this is coming from both agencies are underfunded. So in Trudeau's original plan, he said, we're going to buy back AR-15s and other restricted firearms because they're scary and dangerous, even though they have hardly ever been used in a crime, let alone a mass shooting in Canada. And it's going to cost us $250 million. And the gun community came back and said, okay, like, tell me more about this potential ban. Like, is it just the AR-15? Oh, no, there might be some other guns that military assault weapons on there. Well, assault weapons have been banned in Canada, most since the 70s, some in the 90s. Like, so which ones are you specifically talking about? Because there are none.
Right.
They're like, well, like these ones that have military characteristics that look like an assault weapon. So then there was a debate of like, well, define assault.
Just because they look badass.
Is it because they have a pistol grip and so they're scary? But what if they've never been used in war? What about guns that we have in Canada that have been used in multiple wars that are non-restricted here? That is an assault weapon because that at the time was what they were designed and intended for. The AR-15 is designed as a civilian rifle that functions similar or has the same feel and look as a military rifle, but is a much dumbed down, less powerful version as far as rate of fire goes. So it's like, well, do you not count that as an assault weapon? It was used in a war, assaulting countries. Some of them were used by our enemies, and we're okay with those. And then we say, well, if we look at that and we think about what we're gonna put forward in your buyback, like how much are you gonna give back to these consumers? Because some of these guns cost $3,000.
Right.
And they're like, well, we don't know yet. Well, then how do you know it's going to cost $250 million? How can you sit here and tell everyone we're going to make you safer by spending $250 million on buying back these guns, but we don't know what we're buying back and we don't know how much we're going to give to them, but we know it's going to cost $250 million. It's pretty dumb. And all the police chiefs said, you're better off giving us that $250 million. Like, let us actually...
Oh, if they could put money towards actually stopping the problem of gangs and illegal guns and illegal drugs, like everything comes through the mail, but they don't check that shit. Like, that's the issue. So if you had more funding for things like RCMP and police and whatever, that would actually stop a lot more than banning these guns that gangsters don't use because it's not fucking comfy to carry a 3-foot gun in your pants. That's not gonna work.
All right, let's stop to take a second to talk about the sponsor for this and every week of Jumbled. That would be our buddies over at Audible. You guys know them. You guys love them. They offer premium audiobooks to the interwebs. And if you are part of the interwebs, which you are because we don't ship out physical media with our audio on it, right? Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled and get a free audiobook, guys. It's really that easy. All you got to do is just go to that website, start your free trial, grab that free audiobook on us. You guys are welcome. The audiobook that we're going to talk about for the month of May is The Comedians, Drunks, Thieves, Scoundrels, and the History of American Comedy by Cliff Nesteroff. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but that's how it looked to me. Also narrated by Cliff. The length is 15 hours and 6 minutes, so if you want to talk about getting bang for your buck, here's where you go, right? You go to audibletrial.com/jumbled and you get The Comedians by Cliff Nesteroff. Quick summary of this book. Here we go. In The Comedians, comedy historian Cliff Nesteroff brings to life a century of American comedy with real-life characters, forgotten stars, mainstream heroes, and counterculture iconoclasts. That's a hard word to say. Based on over 200 original interviews and extensive archival research, Nesteroff's groundbreaking work is a narrative exploration of the way comedians have reflected, shaped, and changed American culture over the past 100 years. Guys, that's gonna be it. There's more to the summary, but I'm not gonna read all of it. I'm going to leave that one up to you guys. I would recommend The Comedians by Cliff Nesteroff. But if you guys want to listen to something else, they have so many different audiobooks in so many different categories. You guys are going to find something that you're going to enjoy, and that is a jumbled and audible guarantee. So again, head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled and pick up that free audiobook. We thank you. We thank Audible, and let's get back to the podcast.
Yes, that's the other issue, is that the mass shootings that do happen are handguns that are gotten illegally.
Sure.
So then this, we kind of knew, the gun community knew something was coming, and there was trying to be some activity. And so the Canadian gun community is kind of split between modern sporters, like modern shooters. So like people like me, I have appreciation. I have hunting rifles, but there's no such thing as a hunting rifle. That I have like a traditional wood stocked rifle. Mm-hmm. And I also have numerous semi-automatic rifles. Some of them are restricted. Some of them are non-restricted. And I have a handgun. And, we're talking about, there's like us, and then there's the other side, which we probably to our detriment call them the FUDs, which are like the old people, the farmers, of like, you don't need that semi-automatic rifle to hit a deer. I was hitting deer with like my muzzle loader, and like way back in the day, it's like, great, your muzzle loader also weighed 15 pounds and you weren't hiking up a fucking mountain carrying it, right? Like, I want a lightweight gun that's efficient. So the FUDs were like, we're not going to help you in your petitions because it's not going to affect us. The gun ban isn't going to bother us. It's not going to affect us. Not my gun, it's your problem. Well, this law comes out on Friday, and now people have had time to read the 65-page document, which I have read through it. And the 1,500 guns. So that's what's being, touted in the media. Trudeau gets rid of 1,500 styles of assault weapons off Canadian streets. The majority of them are already banned. The list is not common, like does not make sense at all, because there are guns who look exactly like an AR-15, shoot the exact same bullet just as quickly, uses all of the same parts, that are still classified as a hunting rifle in Canada even after this ban. So what it is essentially people who, one, don't know the current laws,
right,
but saying they want to strengthen them, and don't know what they're trying to strengthen it about and how they function, and then ignoring the professional advice of the people they asked for professional advice, for zero impact, costing us likely billions, not millions, billions in a buyback. Even if they gave 5% back, we're talking about millions and millions of these guns now. The law, the way it was written, is interpreted as guns that have a bore size over 20 millimeters, which includes almost all shotguns, and also includes a lot of higher caliber big game hunting rifles, which is where we pull in the FUDs. So this broke today and became a really hot topic, and that safety minister came out and said, no, this is wrong. We're going to correct you guys in what we mean. And what you mean and what you say in law are two very different things. And that is the gray area of, I don't care what your intent was. I do, but like, that doesn't matter to me right now. I don't care what you think it says. It's what does it actually say? And it says guns with a muzzle bore larger than 20 millimeters. And the idea was you shouldn't have a grenade launcher. So to some people's surprise, certain grenade launchers are legal in Canada.
So I still have a chance. But you cannot buy grenades. Like, good luck finding, unless on the black market. Like, you can't go to store. So and then people are like, well, why do you have a grenade launcher? I listened to that episode when you had your friend on. I can easily go on the dark web now. He taught me how. Yeah,
that's true. So legally, you cannot buy grenades in Canada.
Sure.
So the people are like, well, why do you need a grenade launcher? It's like, okay, well, a grenade doesn't have to explode fire. It can explode smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very functional tool to mark locations as a flare gun, like a different style of flare gun, a fun gun. It's it's a potato gun at that point, right?
Right.
I was just going to say that.
It's a glorified potato gun.
Yeah.
And some people like them because it's like, yeah, this is a grenade launcher. It's cool. They're stupid expensive. I've never seen one in person. I have been tempted to buy one. I'm glad I didn't now. So back to the media. So 1,500 styles of guns. The majority of them are already banned. It's not comprehensive. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't actually directly impact the actual issues that we're facing in Canada. And they're not off the streets. So there's a 2-year amnesty period right now.
Okay.
Meaning the government has said, we're doing this, but we're not good enough to know how we're going to do it yet. So we're going to give you guys 2 years to comply to the rules that we haven't written yet. So the guns aren't off the street. There are guns on that list that are classified as non-restricted, meaning the government does not know who owns them.
Right.
Which they have just created an insane black market on these firearms. So technically, right now, it would be illegal for me to sell multiple of my guns because they're on this list. But there's some the government knows that I have, and in order for me to sell them, I would have to tell them that I sold it. Mm-hmm. And then they would say, no, you're breaking the law. But there's a bunch of them that the government doesn't know that I have. And they can't know that I have.
Because it's not registered with them.
It's not registered. So now they've pushed people into this black market where guns prices are like price gouging.
Sure.
And opening it up. People can make a gun, last year that normally would have been, non-restricted. So like was this, semi-automatic. And if it shot, 5.56, what an AR shoots, you could get one for, like $1,000, $2,000, depending on what you wanted. Sometimes cheaper. Now we're going for like 4 or 5 on the legal market.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to happen for 2 years. So the next piece, what I said about the impact of that this could have is there's over 2 million legal gun owners, and the government knows who every single one of us are. They also know if we have with our registered guns, so what restricted guns are on that list, they know who has them. Their process right now has not been historically when they make a change that turns me into a felon, does not send me official notice. And their expectation for a licensed owner is to constantly be reading their website and current laws. And I don't think it's fair that you can make a unilateral decision that potentially makes 2.5 million people in Canada face a potential criminal sentence of up to 10 years without telling us that you made that change to the law. When you know who we are, you have to have our current address. You have to have our current phone number.
Yeah.
So this is where the class action lawsuit comes in, where it's going to have serious legal applications. So there are class action lawsuits starting to form right now, and there's petitions, and there's some other legal pieces that are coming to play in political pandering bullshit, you know, the normal stuff. So the push is going to be that there is a process through the courts that we can, as in our rights, say, I don't agree with this ruling and I want to take it to court. And we'll lose in court, but that will take up court time. Sure. And it's going to cost the government a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And it could mean that because the courts are already backlogged and understaffed and slowed, and if they're dealing with all of this bullshit, which I am truthfully, I don't know if I will do it or not ethically.
Oh, definitely you will.
Well, but here's the issue. The idea is if you're gonna fuck with us, we're gonna fuck with you. And now when this rapist gets out because he doesn't get due process and then goes and rapes another woman, well, that's on you, because I'm following the laws that you have set and I'm utilizing the tools that you've said I'm allowed to utilize to fight for what I feel like is something that's a priority to me. Do I want that on my conscience? Is that a legitimate possibility that so I would also be able to do that process for every single individual one of my firearms. And if all 2.5 million people do that, even with just one, that is say 2 million new court cases.
Yeah, it's that.
I kind of feel like with how it's gone, it won't actually hold up because of things like that. And already they're like, oh wait, let's change this, let's change that. Like they ran it through so fast that I don't know if it'll actually hold up.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple pieces to that. One, the Liberal government did enact a significant bill, Bill C-71, which changes a lot of laws around firearm ownership a year ago, and they have not actually had the ability to put it through legislation to make it official. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, all you're doing is saying you're doing things, but you're not actually following through. So
yeah,
it's pandering to your audience.
Yes, it's just for the clout.
It is. It's a divisive topic in Canada right now. It's a wedge topic.
Which is odd because we don't have a huge issue with it. So I don't know why it gets so much attention. Because people watch
CNN all the time.
That's America, though.
Exactly.
It's not here.
And it's a legit issue. Is that well, no offense, this gun is used in America, so we should get rid of it here.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if when I'm a kid, if my neighbor friend falls on his bike, falls on his bike, my mom's first response wasn't, I'm going to take your bike away because your friend fell.
Right.
You guys have an issue, and I don't know how you're going to solve it, to be honest. We have an issue, but it's not the same issue, and we're trying to solve your guys' issue in our country and ignoring our own issue because of media and the scariness. Right. And people don't know. And I know I've talked about this before, but to hear Trudeau say, you don't need an AR-15 to hunt, that's why we're getting rid of it. Well, fun fact, we've not been allowed to hunt with them for decades.
Yeah.
We have other uses for them.
Right.
But you don't know the law. We need to strengthen background checks more than every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone who I've talked to, Canadian, have said yeah, we should have background checks. I was like, yes, let's talk about this. Tell me, what do you think is a good background? And I literally did this last week. I said, what do you think is a good background check? He's like, well, I think, you should have to go to a class and to get your license. I'm like, yeah, you do. And if you want restricted firearms, you have to go to a separate class and do a separate test. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. And then, there'd be a vetting process. So an interview, yeah, okay, that happens. And references, it's a job, yep, that mm-hmm. happens. And if you have a spouse or an ex-spouse, it's mandatory that they call them to say, are you mm-hmm. comfortable with John having guns? And then I'm like, okay, well, what about after that? And he was like, well, how long does your license last? I'm like, you have to renew it every 5 years. He's like, well, then it would make sense to do it every 5 years. When you get your license, you have to, because a lot can happen in 5 years. I'm like, yeah, lots can happen. Great. So yeah, I'll submit new references and you can call my wife and I'll go through the process. Great. And he was like, yeah, that'd be great. I'm like, so what's wrong with every day? He's like, what do you mean? I get my name checked every fucking day in a national database so that if I commit a crime tonight and I go home, my guns get taken away.
Right.
And he was like, really? He's like, yeah. So why do we need more? Why do we need more background checks? He's like, well, I didn't know that. I'm like, exactly. So why are you supporting something without knowing it?
Yeah, that's the thing is, I assume it's the same in your political system, but there are a lot of politicians and people that are banking on the fact that the populace is not informed, and they're not going to figure out these things that are already in place or the logistics behind decisions that are being made. So they're banking on the fact these people aren't going to do their work in order to ensure their liberties aren't being, taken unjustly. But honestly, I think they're sort of playing the system because most people don't go through that process.
I will say, though, I'm real happy with my Daddy Trudeau money right now. I'd be fucked without it. So I don't hate him entirely.
And you know what? And I'm willing to say what he is doing around COVID, aside from this, which he is using COVID as cover for. 2 weeks ago, before the shooting, and I knew like this stuff was coming, I was literally saying, Trudeau's actually doing a pretty good job. I think he's focusing on the right things. He's like trying to take care of people. He's trying to do it appropriately. He's done some really good things for like nonprofit and making sure people
and
who
small
can
businesses
donate
and
still
stuff.
donate. Small businesses. It's like, yeah, I am a big supporter of universal basic income. And to me, this is like the best global experiment of UBI in different forms. Believe it or not, Trump enacted a version of UBI. And now we're going to have this really interesting, like economists are going to have this incredible data points of what did Canada do economically? What did America do? And what were the outcomes of that? And, that's been the big conversation about UBI is like, it's been tested in small areas and small sections, but it's, there's not enough data or a lot of data to really be able to tell if it works or not. That's gone.
Yeah, they're going
to
know now.
We have global UBI right now in various forms, and we're going to be able to look at it and see things. But I'm also fairly confident that as soon as the doors open, your books are going to fill, Lacey, and you're not going to just sit back and be like, I want my UBI, baby.
Oh, no, I'm fucking starving. I want to go back to work so bad. I did realize, but I didn't realize how much of my social life revolved around my job. Because I spend all day with people, talking all day. Mm-hmm. So if I don't go out with my friends at night, that's fine. I learned something from someone today. Where now, I see no one, and I don't get to hear cool stories. I hate that. I'm so sad and alone.
Oh, I'm sure your super extroverted husband is thrilled about having you at home all the time and talking his ear off.
Well, it's funny because he's actually like, you've nothing to tell me now. You don't come in like, oh my God, and then this happened, this. I'm like, I know. And he's like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know. But he's essential, so he gets to work all day. Bastard. So jealous.
Oh man, is he flipping on you now? Is he walking in like, sugar daddy in the house?
Oh, yes. He's like, do you need me to buy that for you? Yeah, I'll get it. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Oh my God. I hope he's just fucking drilling you with that now.
Yeah, he loves it. He's like, do you want to order pizza? I can do that because I'm working full time. And keep in mind too, this is the first time he's working full time in 3 years because he's been in school this whole time and taking summer courses. And he graduated. And well, he hasn't gotten his diploma in the mail, but he's done school now.
He is like big boy baller status now.
Oh, yeah. Except like, nothing will be hiring.
True. That's
perfect
not true.
Time.
There's lots of places still hiring. You just got to know where to look.
By the way, I haven't gotten my stimulus check. That's the thing. That's
because you didn't vote for Trump, so you're last on that list, bud.
No, that's not true. What happened was for my 2018 return, I got just a check cut for it instead of getting direct deposited into my account. So they didn't have my information initially, By the time I entered it, the first wave was already processing. And
well, don't you only get 1,200 one time?
So it's 1,200 per person, and then 500 for dependents. So we should be getting about 3,400, $3,400 whenever it comes through.
Can you please spend $150 of that
on
to
the passport? We will take a look at our bills and things that we have to take care of to ensure that lights stay on and all that and all those things. And if there's some money left behind, sure, we will get that done.
Okay. That's a lie.
And I'll also have my tax return that I'm filing my taxes as well, so I should be getting money back. Oh yeah,
Jessica gets that soon too.
So,
I love tax season.
I could do without it. Taxation's theft, but
I like getting taxes back is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I have to pay it, so I fucking hate it.
Oh, that sucks.
Look at all this money. Oh, can we have a third? Oh, okay. That's cool, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, because you're an independent contractor, right?
Yes, sir.
Ooh, that sucks. See, I'm like the other way where I have every time I fill out my tax documents when I start a job, I always say take like an extra $100. And then I'm like, well, even if there's a mistake, I know I have this buffer, but it's like, this is also forced savings.
Mm-hmm.
Or you also could just put in a bank account and make interest on it. But, that's just me.
I mean, we're talking about a very small amount, like the earning versus risk of me being like, weird, I have this extra like $2,000. I wonder where I would spend that, Lacey.
Listen, I need to make a living, okay?
I mean, I want you to know that instead of tattoos with you, I got angry and then I just bought a dirt bike. So
it seems that you've been doing a lot of that lately.
Yeah, every day it's are you gonna eat or buy your sadness away, right? And I've been really heavily in the buy in some ways, though. If I'm being honest, Ali and I had taken a very aggressive conservative approach financially at the start of quarantine because obviously my wife's job and the economy and the risks of my job and my industry were like, well, what if one of us gets laid off, or like that was a real potential, and we always kind of knew one of us might have a job transition or something as a risk, and we can afford our basic bills, but this was the first time ever we were like, well, it's not unreasonable to think that there's the potential for both of us our jobs to be impacted right now. And we've been doing a lot of things like getting married and traveling and whatnot. I was like, well, maybe we should tone it down a little bit, eat out less. God, we spend so much money on eating out. It's insane.
Oh, it's nuts.
Yeah, you don't realize how much you do it until you just can't, until you physically cannot do it. And and then you're like, holy shit, that much? Really? I could have just saved all of that instead?
Yep.
So before I started working out and I was a fat fuck, I added up everything I spent. And one year I spent $9,000 on eating out. And then when I toned it back, and then the next year when I was looking like hella fine,
I think you look great, even current outfit.
This is my quarantine 10 and my beautiful robe that I haven't left. But yeah, the other year I spent $2,100. So like, and that was still going out. Like, I obviously need my period Taco Bell, so like that didn't change. And $2,100 is still a lot, but it's a lot less than $9,000.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we started doing like the quick mental math. So like, Ali and I would try and do a date night, like once a week, like one night where I wouldn't go to the gym, we wouldn't do friends things. It'd be like, let's do something with us, and it'd be like little activities. I'm going to take you hiking, like it's my week, and then it was her week, and it'd be like, well, let's go do this thing, and it was like $30. It was like no big deal. And then sometimes like, well, let's go for dinner. And if Ali and I go for dinner, and like Ali gets wine, and I'm a fat fuck, so I eat like 2 meals, like because Ali wants to go to fancy restaurants that taste good, but they don't give enough portions,
Right.
That's a whole nother John rant. So it works out great. We're like, I don't drink, so Allie gets wine and I get bonus food, and we're like, whatever, we're both happy. But so it wouldn't be uncommon for us to spend, again, this is Canadian prices, so you're richer than us, Zach, like $150 on, like a Friday night or something, 1 to 3 times a week. And then this Saturday, maybe we like go to a friend's house. So we're like, oh, well, let's, order pizza. And then we'll be like, oh, well, we'll buy this time. So we might spend $200 a weekend on like social things, like ordering food and like hanging out with friends, buying gas to go here, doing this, whatever. Right. And now we're in quarantine. I'm like, well, holy shit, that's $800 a month of like our social life, not including the like weekdays where Allie works super late and I come home and I go to the gym and none of us want to cook. I'm like, well, I'll just pick up food on the way home, and then there's $30.
Right.
Yep.
And now we're not doing that consciously to be better. And we're noticing it. And I was like, well, this is something I think that I would try and be better at post COVID.
Yeah, that's like 96.
We talked about like
that's not $9,600 a year, if my maths are right that I just did in my head.
So you're in your fat fuckitis stage right now.
Me?
Yeah. Those are high numbers. You need to lower that shit.
I weigh a cool 196 right now, baby.
Ooh.
I've been I took a couple of weeks off. Didn't really gain a lot of weight. But I relaxed a little bit, and now I'm trying to be a little bit more focused to get back in shape in hopes that we'll be returning to the gym soon.
I'm definitely back on the workout grind now. After I'm not eating cookies for dinner anymore, so like small improvements.
Good. I'm still there. but then again, I'd never really left that place. So.
I don't know if you listened to the episode, Lacey, where Zach was like, I think my life is significantly better now, actually. Like, I like working from home.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
One of the few.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I am. It's an introvert's paradise right now. So I will.
It is.
I will revel in my.
Yeah, Jesse loves it.
It's great.
Because when he does go to work, so if he has to go on site, so he's commercial security company, so he does like the programming and installation of like cameras and card key access and stuff.
Sure.
So he has a bunch of government contracts that they have to keep up with while everything's closed, because obviously that won't close, like the Mint and the Border's one of them. I'm trying to think what else they have. A couple universities, stuff like that. But now there's the social distancing, and a lot of people aren't working because of how it is. So he's like, I go to work and I see 3 people and they don't talk to me because I don't want to get too close. It's amazing. Cool. Glad you're loving
Jesse.
it.
I love Jesse.
He's like, no one wants to shake my hand anymore. Why can't this be every day? I'm like, well, it might be. It might be the new norm.
I feel like it will be. I feel like people are going to be freaked out over all this stuff, and everybody's going to have sort of their fears about getting too close to people, especially. I don't know, people are being reckless out there. You listened to the episode where Johnny said he got coughed on, and people just don't give a shit nowadays. And there's still people that are going out and still not wearing a mask or not. Or
like the video we saw earlier.
Yeah. Yes.
Girl who cuts a hole in her mask because it's easier to breathe.
And talking under the spit shield or whatever that was, the sneeze
like,
shield.
Bitch.
I can't breathe. Oh, okay. Let's prioritize your discomfort over everybody's health.
My life. Yeah. When last weekend when I went dirt biking, I did go with a buddy from the gym, and he maybe got a little lippy with me, like talking some shit, and we maybe had a little wrestle session.
That's how you solve that.
And I mean, naturally, when you put two people who train and love fighting, when they have a disagreement, it's going to come to fighting.
Well, you guys were primed and ready. You probably already had the look in your eye the first moment you saw him. You're like, is this going to happen at some point? Like, please.
Touch me.
He is one of my good, like close training partners. And obviously, like, we're both feeling pretty, like, you know, ramped up because we haven't been able to explore that outlet for a couple months now.
Sure. It sounds so sexual.
It is so sexual. Like, I went with him and two of his buddies, and the whole time they're just like, God, you guys, there's some weird shit going on. I was like, hey man, when you spend as much time with bodies intertwined as we have, you get a layer of comfort.
Yeah, a finger might venture into a place that it previously didn't.
That's occupy. That I'm known in the gym. If I'm desperate, I'm oil checking. Sometimes when I'm rolling, and if I can reach someone, I'll oil check them and the different two people that are wrestling so that they think it's them.
That's so funny.
Anyway, so we went to pick up his two buddies, and we're at their house, and there's some people, like, kind of, you know, doing yard work, whatever, and he's like beaking me about something, and we get into a wrestling match, but in full motorcycle gear, so like helmet, gloves, jacket,
so like minimal like a street exposure. Fighter.
And we both kind of had this like, moment. I was like, that felt good. And then, you know, 6 hours later, we're up a mountain having lunch, and starts talking shit again. I was like, all right, we're fucking doing this. Full gear wrestle.
Take your pants off.
His two buddies are just sitting there like, look at these morons, like bashing our helmets into each other, rolling around in the mud and the snow and the ice. But then after we're like actually doing jujitsu, and after we're like, oh my God, that felt so good. It was quite orgasmic. I recognize that it's somewhat homoerotic. I've also been known to say that homosexuality is a spectrum. You know,
I don't disagree.
I'm on that spectrum somewhere.
Zach knows. We're all somewhere, right?
While we were waiting for you to arrive, me and Jesse were sharing nude leaks of hot girls that we've seen on Instagram.
What?
Yeah, he's like, you know, she had a leak, right? I'm like, find it for me.
Oh my Lord.
This is our relationship.
All right, guys, we're going to stop it there. There's not really a good place to pick in these Lacey episodes because there's not a lot of dead space. I picked the best spot that I could, and I hope it works out. If you want to follow us on all social media, just look for @JumbledPodcast. Send us any emails to jumbledpodcast@gmail.com or johnny.jumbled@gmail.com. As always, we are sponsored by Audible. Head over to audibletrial.com/jumbled and get that free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. We say it each and every week. Hopefully you guys have taken advantage of that and are getting some high-quality audiobooks in your ear holes. Also, head over to patreon.com/jumbled. And for the love of God, somebody pay me $500. If you got just a wad of money, wad of $500 burning a hole in your pocket and you're looking at somewhere to throw it, my hands are free. I'm ready to catch it. I know exactly what to do with it. And it would probably be reinvest into podcasting. So, hey, that's a way to think about it. If you want to see or hear some better audio, just think of it that way. You know, we're gonna reinvest whatever money, you know, you end up throwing at us. We'll turn it right around and put it back in the podcast. So everybody wins, right? I win because I get new shiny technology things that I get to play with, and you win because you get to hear a better end result. I think that's a great. You know what, guys? You guys are so smart. Thinking about that, you know, all on your own. Gosh. And head over to iTunes, leave us a rating and review. A 5-star rating and review would be much appreciated. We are open to constructive criticism. We would just ask that you email that and not drag us on iTunes, right? Because iTunes handles, you know, a lot of advertisers look at iTunes ratings to figure out if they want us to advertise for them. So keep it nice, keep it clean, and just leave a great review. Any review is great, but a 5-star review is appreciated. You have my thanks for sure, and I speak for Johnny as well. That's going to do it, though, guys. I know this episode was sort of polarizing with the gun talk, but, Johnny's pretty educated in all this stuff, so I don't think it was a biased opinion, or a lot of his stuff is based in fact. So, because he's an analytical guy. But I understand, me being myself, I don't like guns. I don't really want a gun, but I understand that some people do. And as long as they're being safe and careful with their guns, then hey, have your guns, right? Just keep them locked up. Don't swing them around and show them off at the grocery store. Especially you don't need to carry any kind of rifle in a grocery store. You want a handgun in the grocery store. That's fine. Anyway, that's my take on it. I'm not as educated, so maybe what I just said was complete bullshit. But I'll own up to that. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this episode. We got Lacey on next week for for the second part of this one, and we've got other episodes in the works. We've got a Joe episode in the works as well, and knowing Lacey or Joe, these episodes could also turn into multi-part episodes. Again, we got a lot of time on our hands because of the quarantine stuff, so hopefully you guys are enjoying these series. If you're not, let us know. We'll try to wrap them up with a bow a little bit better each time. But I've enjoyed doing them. It's you almost start to feel a little bit like Joe Rogan, where you just record for 3 hours and at the end you're not really too tired. I mean, your voice is a little tired from maybe talking or whatever, but it's been pretty fun. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. If not, like I said, let me know. But we will see you guys next week for a brand new episode of Jumbled, your favorite podcast about guns and having them if you want to, or you know what? If you don't want to have them, that's cool too. We'll see you guys next week.